It's okay. Just out of reach.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Curiosities. Today, as Avery's running away, she has to I get to do the intro. Okay, this is my moment. Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Curiosities, where we discuss curiosities in pop culture. In today's episode, we will be discussing Scandoval, which is a part of the Vanderpump Rules universe, and we will be discussing all that drama today.
Yay!
And we don't even have to flash back that far. Only late or last year in like September or September or a little bit before that.
Ooh. Oh, so we're just taking the TARDIS for like a little like down the block.
Exactly. Unless we want to go to like the beginning of Vanderpump Rules, which is like 10 years ago, but we don't have to.
I mean, we could stop on the way and then kind of pop back.
Exactly, as we're traveling through time.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cross your frame. I thought yes, we're doing another Gabe has done the research episode.
We're going to put this in big air quotes because, you know, America's Next Top Model is my thing. And I listened to a podcast called Watch What Crappens. I love it so much. I really want to meet Ron and Ben in real life one day. Ben Mandelker and Ronnie Karam, because they're just really funny, and I've listened to so many of their episodes, and they do impressions of everybody.
Very nice.
My favorite is Lisa Barlow from Salt Lake City, where she's like, "Oh my gosh, I love that. Can I touch? Can I touch?" And I say that so much to the point where my mom quotes.
Your mom
Lisa
hasn't
Barlow.
even seen it, and she just quotes it because she's quoting you.
Exactly, because Lisa Barlow, she's like, "I love that," and you know they're at a museum where it's like, "Oh, don't touch anything. I love that. Can I touch? Can I touch? Diet Coke. I love that. Baby Gorgeous. Hello, Baby Gorgeous. I love the fish taco from Del Taco. I love that."
That kind of happened with me and my mom because I love Curtis Connor. Curtis Connor is a great YouTuber, and he has this thing where anytime somebody does something problematic, he's like, "Uh-oh," just like that. And so like I started saying that, and it just became like part of like the way, like I'm always just like, "Uh-oh, shouldn't do that." And to my mom, who's only seen like a handful of Curtis's videos that I've showed her, just still goes, "Uh-oh," because it's just like what I do all the time.
Oh gosh, and I've seen memes of Lisa Barlow being like, "I love that." and she's just so quotable. And my mom, it's really funny because sometimes when we're texting one another, she likes to put BG at because like Baby Gorgeous, but she says like, she's like, "Oh, I hate it saying Baby Gorgeous," but she'd be like BG. And at first I'm like, "Oh, background extra." And then I'm like, "Oh, you mean Baby Gorgeous. I love that." Because when Lisa picks up one of her sons from school, she's like, "Hi, Baby Gorgeous. Hi. How are you? Here, let's get some Taco Bell or Del Taco." and then she's like, "Fresh Wolf." So if I were to ever like to impersonate anyone on Snatch Game for RuPaul's Drag Race, I would do Lisa Barlow. Because I feel like I know I have the voice-ish down, and I have some of her Lisa isms.
You really understand the character. You've really gotten into the mind.
Even though I've seen seasons 1 and most of season 2 of Salt Lake City, but I've listened to enough Watch What Crappens with Ron and Ben.
You're like,
or Ronnie Ben. Yeah.
I know enough.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure she'd watch and she'd be like, "I don't love that. You're poking fun at me." Unless you buy me some Del Taco, then I'll be fine. Sorry.
No, you're good. Okay, so we're taking. Where's my TARDIS? Where's my TARDIS? I was gonna say controller, but driver. Let's use that word. The driver.
Woo.
Wait, I'm trying. I don't want to do the one that's gonna be like a Well, I was gonna say I don't want to be the one that's gonna give people a flash warning, but apparently none of them. Oh,
Oh, there we go.
Woo! Nice. Okay, we're going back to when did this show start?
I believe 2013.
Okay.
Because it's on its 10th season. So that's my assumption. I could look it up, but I'm not going
All right.
to.
Ooh, I'm starting to figure out how to drive it. I got it.
Yay!
You know, it's like the second try. Like, you know how you hit the brakes in your car and if it works on the second try, you're like, this is fine.
Oh, God. Now, what happened the first time in the car? Just like, oh, the brakes didn't work the first time. Let's try it the second time. Oh, yay, it works.
You try until you succeed.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so if somebody knows nothing about Vanderpump Rules, not me, because I totally have watched the show. I haven't. How would you describe it to a not me person who is not me, not seen Vanderpump Rules? Not me.
Basically, it is a reality show that follows the lives of various members of a friend group that work at the restaurant Pump, which is a restaurant from Lisa Vanderpump, who is well known for her time on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and it's kind of a spin-off of that. Unfortunately, Lisa Vanderpump was bullied off of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but people are asking for her to make a comeback, but that is neither here nor there. But yes, it follows a group of friends and their daily lives of them, you know, drinking, partying, trying to adult. Their dynamic, because they've been most of them have been friends for many years, and some individuals have been added to the cast and they've been around for a while. So it's basically a group of friends just, you know, having it. I guess maybe it's like the real world kind of thing.
How old are all the people involved in this mess?
Late 20s to early 40s.
I didn't know why I've been picturing them as being in their, like, all in their 40s at least since the beginning of this, but I was just like, I don't know, my brain defaulted to that. I think just because the show has been on for a good amount of time, and I knew that some of them had been on another reality show, I was just like, I was picturing, like, veteran reality stars.
Or, fun fact, Stassi, who was in the first, or was like the main character throughout most of the seasons, but was later fired. She was on a show called Queen Bee, which was hosted by Cycle 2 of America's Next Top Model winner Joanna House.
Woo!
So that's an interesting, that's a great way to tie back into America's Next Top Model.
Watch last week's episode.
Please and thank you. And I also forgot some stuff, so next time we do an America's Next Top Model podcast, I'll have to add those in, but stay tuned for more. But yeah, Stassi, it was basically Stassi, her friends Katie and Kristen's boyfriend Tom Sandoval, Kristen's boyfriend Tom, Katie's boyfriend Tom, Stassi's boyfriend Jax, and a few other individuals, and it's just their lives. And Tom Schwartz, Katie's boyfriend, wasn't really featured early on, but then he came on later. And I just remember when his first big moment where he's supposed to bartend at the opening of one of Lisa Vanderpump's restaurant, and he leaves like within the first few hours because he couldn't take the pressure, and it's just like, oh no. And so basically they're trying to do the least amount of work for the most amount of money, and they're like, and in the earlier seasons they were basically willing to do anything to like for work. They're like, oh no, we need this money, we have to do all the things.
And now the show is successful, so like, we don't need this money.
Exactly. Or we can be a little bit more picky with what we do. This is my persona and I'm sticking to it.
So when you say they'll do anything, like what, like they're trying to keep the restaurant in business? Is that like, are we watching them let's like do crazy stuff to like get businesses for the restaurant? Like
starting their own business, or I'm trying to think of like willing to do whatever it takes, because that's what I've heard other individuals say, but are making t-shirts and stuff like that. So, and they didn't have like the best living situations, where it's just like, here's this 1-bedroom apartment that they live in, so it's just like they need to get rich quick.
Okay, so this was just like a normal reality show for a little while as I kind of coast the TARDIS
Yeah,
up a few years.
Or
into 2022? 2022, right?
yes, near the ending of filming for season 10.
Okay, so almost but not quite a year ago,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Now that we've taken that jaunt back into the future, just like a joy, or back into the past, just as a joyride. um, so like, this was basically just a pretty regular, not sitcom,
A regular
reality
Yeah.
show. Although technically, you're laughing at the situations they get themselves in, so technically, it is a sitcom. Technically speaking.
Except for it's without a laugh track, and it does affect them in real life.
Oh no!
Because there are some. Or in side note, it was really funny because the first the pilot episode was like happened in the middle of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, where Brandy, one of the Real Housewives, confronts Sheena, who is a part of the Vanderpump Rules cast, and Brandy confronts her because Sheena is the mistress.
Yeah.
And she had been having relations with Brandy's husband.
Oh my god.
And so it's basically them having a conversation because she's like, or she was saying how, oh, he was saying how you're separated. He said he was gonna he was divorcing you, and he was like, you were splitting up and stuff like that. And Brandy's like, I hate you so much.
Oh my god.
And like at the beginning of the conversation, Brandy's like, oh, you have some gray in your teeth. And she's like, oh, I had like tooth surgery or something. And I was just like, ooh, maybe talk about the husband.
Oh no.
It's like, maybe it's his fault. He lied to Sheena, but Sheena's the mistress. And then that jump started everything of Vanderpump Rules, and the rest is history. And now we fast forward like 9-10 years later.
Okay, so it's 9-10 years later, as in August of last year, 2022. And how does this all start? Because I only know about this because, shout out, I watch a lot of Emily D. Baker. And Emily D. Baker is into, she wasn't watching Vanderpump at the time, but like she's very into like Bravo TV. So like her audience was kind of like jokingly bullying her for not being up on the Vanderpump drama when all this came out. And then to the lawsuit that will happen a little bit later, she covered. But so how did this actually like originate?
Okay, so you have our not the plaintiff, or the you have the antagonist of this story, Tom Sandoval.
Okay.
Tom Sandoval has been around since the beginning, and his storyline for the first few seasons was him and Kristen's toxic relationship.
Okay.
Where they would basically be cheating on each other, or they would be lying to each other. They would get into a lot of arguments a lot, and Kristen even brought quote unquote Miami girl to the show, which is basically someone who Tom had relations with while he was dating Ariana, the kind of the protagonist of this story. But apparently they weren't exclusive, or maybe Tom cheated on Kristen with my quote unquote Miami girl, and so there was some drama with that. And so the first few seasons was them being really toxic, and then they break up, and Tom is in a relationship with Ariana.
Okay, so Ariana is the main protagonist, if you will, from the perspective of the internet.
Yeah, and also the victim of everything that's happened. And Tom Sandoval, he's kind of the quote unquote nice guy of the group, in a sense, where Sheena recently talked about how when they were doing the upfronts for the first season, which I think is like a press thing where they go on the carpet and they're like, we're promoting the show. Like no one wanted to be around her, but Tom Sandoval was just like, here, I want you to be a part of this group. And he was like,
okay, so he's known for being pretty nice, which is why this whole thing was shocking.
Yes, and there was a point where it came out where Kristen had relations with his best friend Jax, and Tom proceeded to punch him in the head.
Okay, so his ex slept with his best friend, and then there was a reality show style altercation.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is when Kristen and Tom were still dating.
If you know nothing about this is not Scandoval yet. We haven't gotten to Scandoval yet.
This is like kind of the build up to everything that happened.
I will say the fact that he's like known as like the nice guy, and they were in what was seen as a stable relationship, him and the person that all of Scandoval happened with, it kind of reminds me of the Ned Fulmer situation with the Try Guys, if you know anything about that.
Oh,
I
yes.
might have to do a podcast at one point on the Try Guys, just because it's a fascinating piece of internet history at this point in time. But
Yeah.
anyway, back to Scandoval. So we have Tom, who is dating Ariana at this point, who is not, because I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep it straight. There's Kristen, but he's broken up with Kristen. Is
Yes.
Kristen still on the show?
Kristen is not on the show because she and Stassi kind of had some moments where they try, or there was a theft that happened and they blamed a previous co-star on it, and it was kind of like, oh, you're just blaming her because she is black.
Oh,
And they
not cool.
And so due to their racist remarks, they were let go from the show.
Well, that's good.
So, and basically Kristen, Stassi, and Katie, not really a player in Scandoval, but like a little bit of a scapegoat for Scandoval. They were dubbed the Witches of WeHo, and they were kind of the quote unquote mean girls of the show. And with Kristen and Stassi gone, Katie was kind of on her own, and Katie kind of was trying to was kind of antagonizing others still, and so not a lot of the cast really liked her that much. And
okay,
so
Kristen's gone. Kristen is the toxic ex of Tom. When does Tom start dating Ariana, who they're the main central point of Scandoval?
About season 2 or 3 are about, they've been together for 9 years.
Okay,
so
I know that's the other thing where people were talking about like how long they've been together and how this played into the whole drama situation, because sometimes drama happens and it just captivates the whole internet, and it's like, but wait, why is this captivating us more than other drama? And diving into that can be fun, you know.
Yeah, and
my hair is caught in my own thing. Oh dear.
Oh no. Are you okay?
The TARDIS.
The TARDIS, why? And
it leaves no survivors.
Oh no, we're sorry, TARDIS. And another interesting thing to point out that will come into play later is they use the term hooked up, but allegedly Tom Sandoval made out with Ariana at the pool at the Golden Nugget while he was still dating Kristen. And
okay.
He said things like, oh, I feel like you cringe every time I try to hug you. We don't talk to each other. I feel like you're just so annoyed by me, which apparently comes in later.
Okay, so we'll circle back around to that. So you've got Tom, you've got his long-term girlfriend, Ariana. And then you have who else?
And we have the other major player in this game, Raquel, aka Rachel.
Okay, so her name is Rachel, but she goes by Raquel. I know people are like, but why?
Yeah.
Which, to me, I feel like is the not important part of this story, but, you know.
And Raquel, it was her ex-fiance is James, who he was seen early on in the show, but he wasn't really he was like an extra, essentially. He had like a non-speaking role, but then was brought in because Kristen started dating him a little after she broke up with Tom. And apparently it was to spite Tom because James and Tom were gonna be roommates and whatnot. And Tom had known James for a long time, and apparently Kristen had James over and had like relations with him and stuff like that. I don't know if Tom and Kristen were still together, but basically Kristen seemed to do this to begin a relationship with James to spite Tom.
Okay. Can you do me a favor? Can you hand me one of those notepads and a pen?
Notepad and
any pen from that thing. For the people who are listening to us, I'm sure you're smart people who can handle things on your own. For the people who are watching us here on YouTube, hi, subscribe to Avery Talks About Stuff. Why did I forget the name of my own channel for a second? Has it been that long of a day?
It's a really good channel. I've seen several videos. Please like, comment, and subscribe on all of Avery's videos. And please have it be nice things because they're awesome and we don't support hate here.
Thank you. I hope I'm spelling Ariana correctly.
I think it's Ariana.
A-N-A. I put an extra N in Ariana.
Oh, okay.
So I had to fix it.
Understood. Oh, just trying to keep a flow. Basically, you can see almost kind of above Avery's head, she's creating a family or the family tree of Once Upon a Time.
Now
So
we're
it's
gonna
kind of
create the family tree of Scandoval, which doesn't feel like a family tree. It feels like a,
well, everyone on the cast has like been or pretty much a lot of the cast has dated each other, so it's kind of like that a little
Okay.
bit.
So
But
here's Tom.
or we have Tom Schwartz and Tom Sandoval.
Oh,
So,
I'm sorry. There's two Toms.
or the other next one could be Schwartz.
Okay.
Because usually Tom Schwartz goes by Schwartz.
Yeah. So if you're watching us on, I'm doing or was it Charlie Day from Always Sunny who's in the
Yes, and he's just like, oh.
Yeah, I'm doing one of those. So we've got Tom and we've got Ariana. Tom and Ariana.
Ooh.
Whoops, sorry.
The Warheads.
They are the main couple. Now Tom has an ex who's named Kristen.
Yep.
Okay.
Kristn.
Okay.
Kristen. I remember watching the earlier seasons and feeling so bad for Kristen because I feel like she was in emotional turmoil at all times. Which you know,
Same.
you see everything that's going on and you're like, oh, it kind of makes sense because people are saying Tom's a narcissist. But which will come into play later. This is what people of the internet are saying. And also, please don't send hate to any of these people.
No.
I'm just trying to report facts, or not facts, of what I've seen and trying to interpret it in a way where we just kind of talk about this huge moment in reality show history.
This is so tiny.
And then, oh gosh.
Hang on, Spencer. Hang on, Spencer. I'm gonna make him a little bit bigger. Sorry, Spencer. Don't hate me.
Sorry, Spencer.
Sorry, Spencer. Sorry, Spencer. Sorry, Spencer. Sorry, Spencer. Okay, we've got Tom, the important Tom.
Yes.
Here. Okay. This is Tom. Hello, Tom.
Hello, Tom.
Okay, now we have. No one wants to see you right now, Tom. But you know what? That's okay.
No.
Sorry.
Avery is writing down everyone's names because we need a flow chart for this because there is 10 years worth of information that's being brought in here.
Gabe has all the tea, and I'm making sure that none of the tea is wasted.
And technically the tea isn't over yet because there's still a big bombshell that's supposedly supposed to be coming from Rachel.
Oh, no.
That only the showrunner knows. And people are thinking that it's about the timeline of events that happen. And also and I think contracts have gone out, but there are, from what I heard and from what I understand, contracts haven't really gone out yet. Or they have gone out and they're telling the cast not to sign them yet until after part 3 of the Vanderpump Rules reunion, because apparently there's a major bombshell that Rachel's gonna drop that may change the course of everything.
No, it'll change everything forever.
And people are speculating that it's the timeline of events where it's like or what happened didn't start 7 to 8 months ago and last for 7 to 8 months.
Somebody other than the showrunner has to know about it because it's about these people's lives, right? So somebody has to know and just not know what the producers know, right?
Well, I don't know what to believe, but you're probably right.
Okay, so we have Tom. Tom is the problem child.
He is the problematic one.
Tom used to date Kristen, who, no offense to Kristen, not on the show anymore.
Correct. But she does make a cameo in the season finale of season 10.
Still a very valid person, but no longer the main part of this equation. Tom now is dating Ariana. They are dating each other, if you will. It was a mutually exclusive relationship as we came to know it.
Yep.
Okay. Now what? Now who do we have?
Do we want to talk about the mistress or do we want to talk about James? Because he was the one who brought Rachel into the group.
Okay, who's James?
James Kennedy. DJ James Kennedy. He dated Kristen a little bit after breaking up with Tom, and he kind of became a staple in the show, and he's British, and his storyline is him trying to learn and grow and decrease the amount he has been drinking because he gets a little nasty when he drinks.
So he's Tom's bestie?
Yep.
Who dated Kristen?
Yep.
And they're not together anymore?
Correct.
Okay.
And James there was a point where he admitted to cheating on Kristen on camera, not to Kristen, just on camera. And there was a point where they got into an argument and he spit on her door. And also there was a point where she slapped him after Sheena's first wedding on the show because he was kind of getting in her
I
face.
need to watch this show. Damn.
It's very interesting. It ebbs and flows. I think it was season 8 or 9 where I was just like, or 7 or 8 or 9 where I was just like, oh.
Okay, so we have the best friend of Tom, who used to date Kristen. They broke up, and then she started dating Tom.
No, or Kristen and Tom broke up, and then she
okay.
And to try to spite Tom, it seems.
Okay, but none of these people are together anymore.
Correct.
Okay. And these two probably don't talk to each other anymore. I'm sorry, I'm not talking close enough to this microphone. Spencer's going to kill me.
Well, after the whole incident that happened, James there was literally a point during the reunion where James booed Sandoval.
Oh no, the thing is moving. Okay, so we already have more players in this situation than I was expecting.
Yes.
Who is the next player in this situation?
If we want to keep it short and sweet, the next and final piece of this puzzle, our major piece of the puzzle, is Raquel slash Rachel, the mistress, if you will, who dated DJ James Kennedy and even got engaged to James Kennedy before they. Yes.
Okay, I was gonna put an extra LE and I didn't know if that was right, so I figured I should ask.
Okay.
Raquel slash Rachel,
who actually got engaged to James, but then they ended up breaking off their engagement because Raquel didn't like James when he was drinking.
Ooh.
But she was still a part of the show, and so she's the part of the reason why Scandoval happened.
Okay, so they were together, but then, they broke up.
Oh, and one thing of note to remember is for James's engagement party, Tom Sandoval paid for half of it, and his and that came out to $12,000.
Oh, okay. So in case I didn't say that close enough to the microphone, just to recap, Spencer, in case you need these sound bites, we have Tom Sandoval, the problem child. We have his ex Kristen, who also dated his best friend James, who James was also engaged to Raquel, and now Tom is dating Ariana in the year of our Lord 2022. Well, it's not the current year, so I guess never mind. Anyway, these 5 people.
Yep. And so basically what happens is season 10 is happening, and we kind of see little seeds planted by Tom that his and Ariana's relationship is not going well and that it's her fault and Tom Schwartz is also brought in on it, but he knows a little secret. And so he was just like, oh my gosh, she demeans me all the time. She doesn't support me. She's so mean to me all the time. She calls me an idiot. And basically is trying to plant the seeds in everyone's mind that that it's not good and it's Ariana's fault. And they're having these arguments where she's like, she's saying how she wants to have quality time together. And Tom is just like, we haven't been as close and intimate as we have before. And Ariana's like, yeah, I need to have quality time. I can't just be at your beck and call all the time. And he's arguing, and she's usually staying cool, calm, and collected, and he's just kind of being like, or it's like, you not reacting, it's just like, you have no emotions, or he didn't say that, but he's trying to make it look like she has been very cold to him.
Okay.
When she has very reasonable demands towards him and saying, I want to spend quality time with you, and we don't have the same, hi Perry. And we don't, or it's like, sometimes we don't like the same thing, so I'll hang out with my friends and we'll talk about that stuff, and you're not really interested in that stuff, so
really?
Yeah, our Perry's upset about all this too.
Yes, Perry is a huge follower of Scandoval.
Exactly. And then another thing we see in the season is Schwartz and Raquel are kind of having a little thing going on where at Sheena's wedding they make out, and Katie, who is Tom Schwartz's ex-wife, said, "You can do whatever you want, just don't try to do anything with the friend group, or don't try to have relations with anyone in the friend group." That's like the only boundary she had, and he broke that. And so and Schwartz has been very unsupportive to Katie throughout their entirety of the relationship on the show, where he would basically say it's her fault these fights are starting, and she's like, "Can you back me up?" And I think maybe one time he stood up for her in an argument, but usually he's saying, "You're wrong, this is all your fault, you're the aggressor." And then when he kind of goes across this one boundary that she set, he's trying to make her look like the bad guy.
Okay. So all of these people have dated each other. There is an ex-wife in the mix.
Yes. And the reason why this is happening is, the theory is that Tom Sandoval wanted to take the attention away from him and Rachel for a little bit and say, "No, Rachel's into Schwartz. I'm not into her. I'm going to break up with Ariana, and then Rachel and I are going to get together." But it all blows up in his face.
Yeah, because again, we have not gotten to Scandoval yet.
Exactly. It's just like everything leading up to it. And the whole not being supportive will kind of come in later.
Okay.
But hopefully I don't forget everything. But yeah, the season happens, everything wraps, and then the concert.
Okay. Tonight on As the Scandoval Turns.
As the Scandoval Turns. So Tom Sandoval apparently is having a midlife crisis, and he starts a band. And because, because one of his storylines through the season is him and Schwartz are trying to get this restaurant called Schwartz and Sandy's off the ground. So that's having some trouble. So so Sandoval is just like, "I need to have my thing," and that was making a band. And at one of his concerts, Sandoval drops his phone, and the phone is given to Ariana. And Ariana,
his girlfriend at the time.
His girlfriend Ariana at the time, who he's been having problem with, but Ariana's impression is that it's going good because they've been going to therapy, and she's taking all his criticism in and trying to be more of what he wants her to be.
Okay.
And so she's getting some intuition, like, "You need to look at the phone." So what she does is, while he's on stage, she goes into his phone and she finds the video.
Can I just say real quick, I'm picturing him being in like a small enough venue that he sees her looking at his phone. In my brain, he has a clear shot to her as she's looking at the phone, scrolling, as he's up there like playing in the band, and he's just like, "Oh no."
Well, it's really funny because they show video footage from that night, and you see Ariana with Sandoval's phone in her lap, and then cut to Sandoval just staring off on the stage at the person who's filming with like a very emotionless expression on his face, and it's just like, oh no. But apparently there was a screen recording on Tom's phone that basically showed he was cheating.
Do I want to know what the screen recording showed? Or why it was on his phone?
Basically, it showed that he was cheating on Ariana with Rachel. They
were holding hands.
And they were in two separate locations, if that helps with the situation. But it was.
I now have more questions.
Well, yeah, they're in two different locations, and it basically proves that.
Oh, were they? Oh.
Yeah. Oh. I think if it's what you're thinking.
Oh, God.
And so what happened was, earlier that day, Rachel is with Sheena on Watch What Happens Live, and there's a moment where
Rachel the mistress.
Okay. Her name is Raquel, but to show solidarity with Ariana, because Ariana or to go back, Ariana is probably everybody's favorite from the show because she seems to be the most quote unquote normal, and she doesn't do anything to be outright malicious to people. She just kind of reacts when people do stuff to her. Like, there's a infamous scene where she's talking to Sheena about Kristen. She's like, "I'm smarter than you. I'm prettier than you. Get the F over it." But like a genuinely kind, caring, lovely person. So this is why everyone's so up in arms about this, because everybody loves Ariana. And so, and on Watch What Happens Live, you have Rachel and Sheena, and they're playing a game where it's just like, who's more attractive, Sandoval or Schwartz? And they both say Sandoval. And Sheena's just really confused because she's like, wait, weren't you just making out with Schwartz near like at my wedding? Sheena said.
Officer, I gave you all the clues.
Pretty much. And and it was interesting because there was at BravoCon, Rachel was wearing a Tom Tom hoodie, and there's also some important information that comes up later about that. And there was like a Halloween where Sandoval dressed up as Raquel.
Ooh.
And people are like, oh, this is interesting.
Okay,
But
so Tom is playing in a band. While he is on stage, his long-term girlfriend, Ariana, finds a video of him calling the mistress Raquel. Okay.
Yes, and she finds that recording, and so she tells, or and she's contacting Raquel, and Sheena's like, what's going on? And Raquel's like, oh, I've been having an affair with Sandoval for the last 7 months. And Ariana just found out about it. And she probably said it in that exact same tone.
Wait, she said that to who? I love how
Sheena.
I'm wrapped on every single word you're saying.
She told that to Sheena because this was right after Watch What Happens Live.
So did she just start getting massive phone calls from the girlfriend? It's just like, shit, the jig is up.
I think she was texting her, and Ariana was like, if you ever cared about me at all, you will tell me like what happened. And also what was happening during that season is Ariana's dog had passed away, and Ariana's grandmother had passed away.
Aww.
During this season.
So this was not a good year for her.
It was not. And also after Ariana's I believe it was either after her grandmother or dog passed away, she called Tom, who was at a barbecue, and she's like, she's like, my grandmother just passed away. And apparently Tom didn't leave the barbecue for another 2 hours.
Oh shit.
And he was there with Raquel. And so Lala, who is also a cast member, who came in kind of season 3, and the mean girls were kind of mean to her, but she still kind of held her own a little bit.
Okay.
And she also has her own scandals, but they were always overshadowed, or she had tragic moments and her own scandals, but they were always overshadowed. But there's a really good scene where Lala, who we're used to seeing her like yelling at people and kind of defending herself and getting really angry at other people.
Yeah.
But there's this scene, and I think it's really good because Lala is just calmly explaining to Ariana, like, hey, what's going on in this situation. And because Tom had told Ariana, like, oh, I couldn't get a ride. I was supposed to go with an individual named Jason, but yada, yada, yada. And it's just, the stories weren't matching up. And Lala is just like, hey, it's just being very common. I'm just like, oh no.
Okay.
But even after this situation, Lala had her was just like red flags, ding, ding, ding. But apparently nothing came up until Ariana found the screen recording on her phone.
Okay, so Lala had told her before, like, I think something's up with your boyfriend and Raquel.
Or I don't know about Raquel, or if it was just about Raquel, but she was like, there are some discrepancies in his story.
Ah, okay.
And I just want to get to the bottom of this.
So Prophet Lala was proven correct.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And there was a later scene where she's like, the way he's been talking about Raquel, right, or to everyone, is the way he talked about Ariana when he was still with Kristen.
Oof.
So Lala was kind of like ding, 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 but Ariana was very trusting of Tom and Raquel at the time, and Rachel at the time. So she's just like, I understand what's going on. I think it was just a small miscommunication.
It was narrator's voice. It was not a small.
It was not a small miscommunication. And that's also the other thing that's kind of devastating, is that she trusted him to an extent where I don't want to say she like turned a blind eye, but she's like, okay, I don't have any reason to not trust him in this situation. And so now she's just like, you mother lover.
Because then they've been together for like, what, 10 years at this point?
Almost 10 years, yeah.
Yeah, so like, That sucks. That really sucks. Okay, so that's just kind of the beginning of Scandoval.
Just the beginning. And also another thing to point out is apparently when Sheena found out about this, she had taken or she took Raquel's phone and apparently threw it because Sheena was very much team Rachel this whole time against Katie, and Katie was just like, "Hey, she kissed my husband," and there was also this really big fight at the season finale that was also kind of a misdirect, kind of maybe set up by Sandoval, where Raquel is trying to quote unquote apologize for, or no, she's not apologizing. She's just like, "Hey, Katie, I made out with your soon to be ex-husband. You need to get over it," kind of thing. And Katie's mom got involved. And there was a point where Raquel like rolled her eyes at Katie's mom.
Okay,
and
so Katie is
Schwartz's ex-wife.
Ex-wife? Okay.
But they hadn't signed the papers yet.
Okay, so the best friend of Scandoval. So Raquel was with him before she was with...
Or he was in the middle.
Okay.
Because or with the timelines, basically, well, at that point, apparently, they had just made out, which we later learned was a lie. They had a one-night stand.
Okay, wait, you said Sheena, who is a name that has only barely come up. Why was Sheena throwing phones?
Because Sheena is kind of Sheena is Rachel's best, or is Rachel's really good friend. And Ariana is also Rachel's really good friend, and apparently Sheena like took Rachel under her wing because Rachel didn't have a place to win. Yeah. And so when Katie was kind of being antagonized by Rachel, Sheena stuck up for Rachel because Sheena and Katie have had a past where they weren't really on good terms because the Mean Girls were kind of bullying Sheena the whole way through.
Yeah. Or
for many seasons. And so Sheena's just like, I'm on Rachel's side. I believe everything she says, even though Katie's kind of being gaslit this whole time.
So then Sheena finds out that she stuck up for Raquel, and then finds out that she actually was in the wrong and got pissed and threw her phone.
Yes, and apparently, Sheena was on speakerphone with Ariana and Sandoval, and there are two things, and Sheena said something, and Tom is trying to manipulate the story because apparently what happened was Sheena got really mad. And Raquel grabbed her wrist and she pushed her. That's Sheena's story. What Rachel says is that Sheena punched her.
Okay, so when I was trying to understand this when I heard them cover, because this is what the lawsuit was about, the restraining order.
Yes,
I thought this was between the long-term girlfriend and the mistress. This was between the mistress and the girl who stuck up for the mistress.
Yes.
Okay, that makes it so much messier.
And because what happened was because Rachel had taken photos of herself and she looked like she had a black eye and a cut above her eye and like her eyebrow area. And so she was like, "Oh, she punched me. Here's photo proof." And she was granted a temporary restraining order, which means during the reunion, there had to be a section where it was just Sheena and Rachel had to be 100 yards away. And then later on, they had to switch. So at the end of the second part of the reunion, Sheena had to be taken 100 yards away, and Raquel was brought in. So, and this also might have, and Schwartz apparently had pushed Rachel to get a restraining order, and I think Sandoval said that, "Oh, Sheena on the phone said, oh, I just punched that B word," or whatever. And so both the Tom, which is also a really crappy thing for them to do because Sheena was kind of on Tom Schwartz's side with everything, and so it was just like And so Schwartz is not really a good friend. And Schwartz is kind of like innocent, like, "Oh, I can never do anything wrong. Bubba," or that's his nickname for Katie. "Bubba, what's wrong, Bubba? I didn't do anything wrong, Bubba. You're antagonizing them, Bubba. I'm just sweet little innocent Schwartz."
So Schwartz and Sandoval are both kind of like the quote unquote, for lack of a better term, wife guys, where it's just like they're like the nice guys. So he's like, "Oh, they really love their partner, all this," and then it comes out that they've been like cheating Is that kind of the situation? Like, no
Yeah.
one expected this of Sandoval. Like, he was the...
He was the nice guy. Everyone who had interacted with him was like, "Oh, he's so nice." Or, he cheated on Kristen, but he kind of spun it to where Kristen looked like the bad guy, and a lot of or I know Ron and Ben from Watch What Crappens met Tom and Ariana, and apparently they were like, "Oh, Tom was very nice to us, and so was Ariana." So it was it was like in Legally Blonde where Vivian was like, "You almost had me fooled." And so it was just like, oh. And Schwartz, apparently he had cheated on Katie in their relationship. Apparently he had just made out with other people, but I think he had relations with other people too. And they stayed together, but they didn't. Schwartz and Katie didn't break up until Katie was like, "I've had enough," because Schwartz never took any initiative. Katie was like, "I think we should get married," and he was like, "I don't know," and he gave her a ring on a string.
Wait.
He gave her, instead of proposing to her, he gave her a ring on a string as kind of a promise, like a promise ring, essentially. Like, "I will ask you to marry me, just not right now."
A ring on a string? I've never heard of that before.
Apparently, it's a thing that, well, just so you know, just know it's a thing you don't want to do if you want to marry someone down the line.
I mean, I kind of was coming to that conclusion already,
but he basically he didn't want to get married, but he was dragging his feet and didn't end the relationship. So finally, Katie's like, "I've had enough. We're done." Because with Schwartz and Sandy's, that kind of put strain on the relationship, and Katie was like, "I'm trying to help." And Katie and Sandoval hate each other, which is why Sandoval was trying to use Katie to be a smokescreen for everything he's doing. So
okay.
Tom and or Sandoval and Katie don't like each other, so they were fighting, and then Schwartz was taking up for Tom Sandoval throughout all this, and Katie's like, I've worked in restaurants for most of my life because I believe her parents owned a restaurant, so she's like, "I know what I'm doing. I can help you with this." And they were just fighting, and Schwartz was not being supportive, and Katie was trying to be supportive, I guess. And so they ended up breaking up. And there was a point where they're sitting at Schwartz and Sandy's, which hadn't been open yet. And Katie's like, "Was it worth it?"
Yikes.
And Schwartz was like,
Is it too late to mention that when you say ring on a string, I'm picturing like a cartoonish, like a ring on a string that you like pull and like get
oh, it's like,
thing,
oh,
right?
oh, just kidding. But it was basically a ring on a necklace kind of thing.
Like
sorry,
okay.
yeah, and so it's like he's like, it's a promise ring kind of thing.
Okay, people used to do that in high school.
Oh, well, that kind of makes sense for Schwartz because he's like in his 30s, but kind of acts like a sweet innocent child. He fantasizes himself and others.
Ooh, woo, and here's a ring on a string. Please don't make me marry you yet.
Ooh, woo, I'm so cute. This is adorable, right? And so going back to the temporary restraining order, Sandoval and Schwartz were kind of pushing it, where Schwartz was like, "Oh, you should get a restraining order if she hit you," and Sandoval was like, "Oh yeah, she over the phone said she hit you," where apparently, or Sheena has really long nails, so she's like, "I can't make a fist properly." And I'm thinking if she because she can't like hold her thumb in between her fingers like this.
Yeah.
And if she went like this, she'd have to have like her thumb all the way out so she could hurt her thumb. And there was like if you're looking at the TV screen, Raquel has the scar on this side of her face, so it's
nail hit her?
So basically I think Raquel was trying to say she was scratched on the same eye, the same eye that became a black eye, which I don't think is possible, because if Sheena has her thumb sticking out here, she would have to hit her in the right eye to scratch her left eye. But I think the photo showed the black eye and the scratch on the same side. So ooh. I don't know if it would make any sense for that to happen. I would need to like look at the photos again. But basically Sheena's like, I can't make a fist properly and hit someone.
You also shouldn't. I'm not an expert, but you're not supposed to put your thumb in. I do know that because you'll break your hand.
Exactly. So she's like, I can't hold my hands like this or else I'll break all my nails, and I can't hold my hand like this or else I'll break my thumb. So she's like, but the temporary restraining order was granted, and so that kind of affected the the whole reunion. And there's a really tragic part of the reunion where Sheena is full on sobbing. It's not like the fake reality show crying that you see nowadays.
The pretty one?
Exactly, where
The
you don't
one
see any
singular
tears.
tear?
But she's like tearing up. She has to have like 3 or 4
Aw.
tissues, and she's basically just like, or she's like, I took Rachel under my wing. I helped her out when no one else was helping her. I did all these things for her, but then she would turn around and stab me in the back like this. And it has been affecting me emotionally. And Sheena has a daughter, and she was talking about how, I'm stressed because of this, and I'm crying, and my daughter doesn't understand what's going on, so my daughter's crying. And
Aw.
like the other day, my daughter was hyperventilating because
Aw.
I was just crying so much. And then cut to Rachel being like, haha, maybe I should have written her a handwritten note.
Yikes.
And,
Okay, so that's not even I love that this is like there's like rings of drama. It's like a
yeah,
drama bullseye. Cause that's the mistress and somebody that wasn't cheated on.
exactly.
So as far as Tom and his, I assume now ex, very long term girlfriend,
Very ex-girlfriend.
what does she do like in the aftermath of like finding this out after she calls and it's just like what happened? Like
Basically, what happens is she calls Raquel, or she's texting Raquel, and then they have a phone call where, and I think Ariana is talking, or I can't remember when they were on speaker. I think they were on speakerphone. They were talking to Sheena, but I believe Ariana called her, and she's like, if you ever had any like feelings for me as a friend at all, you will tell me when this happened. And I believe Rachel said that they kissed on guys night, and guys night, basically what happens is Katie, Lala, and another friend of theirs plus Rachel and another castmate Charlie are all going to a place called Lake Havasu in Vegas and stuff.
okay.
And Rachel is kind of bullied away because there was another scandal where Rachel had made out with a guy who apparently wasn't separated from his wife, where he had told Rachel, "Oh, I was separated," but the wife's like, "But we're not though."
Ah.
And so Lala's kind of poking at Rachel because of that. It's like, "Oh, what up, mistress?" kind of thing. And Katie's just like, "You're a harlot."
Meh.
And apparently they said some things about Rachel, and Rachel was just like, you know what, I'm leaving. And so Rachel and Charlie leave, and they crash guys night where you have Sandoval and James and Schwartz and a bunch of their friends. And James feels weird about this because Rachel broke up with James, and James is like, I'm not okay with her being here. She's taking all my friends away,
My
kind of thing.
friends.
Because a lot of individuals were on Rachel's side, and Rachel has like a birthday party with Sandoval, Ariana, Sheena Schwartz, and Brock, Sheena's husband, and they're like, "Oh, we love you, Rachel. This is also great." And then at Rachel's birthday, Tom Schwartz is like, "Oh, I think Rachel has a type. Who? Men who are taken. So Brock and Tom, you better watch out." And so that's like, wait a second.
So like everybody knew about this except for
Or,
poor Ariana.
well, or I think nobody knew about this except for Tom Schwartz,
Oh.
because that's not the first time he dropped a subtle hint about it.
Ah.
And so he's kind of has his feet to the fire because it's like, wait, you knew, and he stuck up for Sandoval this whole time, and he never stuck up for Katie one. So
Yikes.
that's where we go back to that. And so yes, when Ariana's talking to Rachel, Rachel says we just kissed at guys' night, but then Ariana pressed Tom further, and he said that they had relations together in her car, and he didn't have his key, so he had to knock on the door, and Ariana had to let him in.
Yikes.
And apparently that was right after her dog passed away,
Aw.
and Ariana was incredibly upset about her dog passing away because her dog was 14 years old, and I think Ariana had her for 14 years, and there was a point during the reunion where she's like, and my dog wasn't even or it's like she wasn't even cold
Aw.
when you decided to cheat on me.
That sucks. Some people write off like, oh, it's just a pet. It's not. Like when I lost my cat Andy that I had, I was in when I was I think my senior year of high school. I had her since I was 4, and it was just like I was devastated. I cried for like a week. I was just
Oh.
like, and people are like, why are you, so like I think I was, I was volunteering slash working with this play at this place, and um or no, I was working there, and they gave me the day off because they knew I was in distress. And people were like, I came back the next day, and they were like, "Why are you gone?" I was like, "My cat died," and people were just
Oh.
like, "Oh." Almost like that's not a big deal. Not like the
Oh.
main people that I worked with, they
Ah.
understood, but like I remember there being like a random volunteer or whatever that like clearly didn't get it. I'm like, you don't understand.
Oh.
The cat is fur family. So yeah, that sucks. That really sucks.
And
Low blow, dude.
exactly. And allegedly they stopped for a little bit after that time, but and then that's when and I don't think Schwartz or apparent and that was a little bit before Schwartz found out about it. And so Sandoval was like, "Hey Schwartz, you should pursue Raquel," as kind of like a smoke screen
Ah,
to take the heat off him. And he also planted seeds in Schwartz and Rachel's Rachel's minds probably to antagonize Katie, because pretty much the most of the season 10, Katie looks like she's in the wrong for the most part, where she's getting into fights and people are choosing everyone else except her. So in the end she's like vindicated, Katie is, but it's like
okay.
at what cost. But apparently a little while after, Tom and Rachel had continued their love affair for 7 months.
Yikes. So
And
now we're up to what, beginning of this year?
yeah, or I remember during the reunion they talked about how in January Ariana had spoken to Sheena, I believe, and was saying how they had gone to therapy, everything was good. They had relations, and Ariana thought everything was okay
Ah.
because they had been going to therapy, and Ariana was like, "Oh, these are the things that I need to work on." Okay, and she
Oh,
did.
poor
And
Ariana.
then everything comes out during March, and Ariana picks up the phone, calls TMZ, calls the producers, and is like, "Hey, guess what just happened? Guess what I just found out?" And so a few days later, the cameras are rolling again to catch
Oh, because right,
everything.
I forgot this was on break. Can you imagine the producers are like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, this happened. We were following these people for how long? This happens while they're on break."
We were on a break!
Exactly. And it was really interesting because 2 days after the affair broke, Rachel sent a text to Ariana that's like, "I'm really sorry," or "I'm really sorry. I don't know how this happened," because Rachel is described as a robot that's running low on battery.
Ah.
It's interesting looking back and realizing she doesn't really have that many emotions.
So
But yeah.
Ariana was basically like, "Oh, you cheated on me. Cool. Hey, producers, guess what happened?"
Yeah.
Kind of iconic, honestly.
Yeah, because allegedly Tom was going to break up with her before the reunion and had been like planting seeds as like, everything was as bad, or everything was bad. It wasn't good. She belittles me.
He was trying
And
to do her dirty with the cut, with the edit.
exactly. And people and everyone on the show is just like, "No, no." Well, maybe with Schwartz, he's like, "Oh, I don't want to kick you while you're down." And going
Everybody
back to
else
the
is just like, "Here, get in line for the kicking line."
pretty much. But the text that Rachel sent Ariana was like, I'm sorry, I don't know how this happened." And Ariana's like, "F you, you effing rat," and she blocked her.
Yikes.
And so basically the entirety of the season finale is just kind of like, how did this happen? And you know, and Tom had apparently, like off camera, had been like yelling at everybody. And so when
Ah.
the cameras were rolling and Ariana's just like, "No, no, no, you're not gonna get away with this narrative," because or she was basically calling him out on the different narratives that he had. And basically the opening of the episode was kind of, or because basically they still live in the same house together because it's both in their names. And I think
Oh boy.
they were both told like it's probably best that you both stay in the house. And so Ariana brought in her friends to be a go-between
Like
to try to,
inside the house?
or I think, yeah, I think like her friends would be over and be like a go between,
Yikes.
and they would like communicate where the other was. And I think Tom had to talk to or there was like a third party involved that would tell Ariana where he is and stuff like that. And basically, I'm trying to remember the order events in the season finale of season 10, where basically it starts out with Ariana at home with a friend, and Tom like goes into the kitchen and he's like, do you want anything? And she's like, for you to unalive. And basically that's how it starts. And she's just like, okay, so tell me how this happened. And he's like, we weren't good. I wasn't happy. When I turned 40, I just had this awakening and this isn't what I thought. And she's just like, I changed myself for you. And she's like, you know what? So F my friend. Go F my friend. And then there's a really good part where she's like, I don't give an F about freaking Raquel. Your relationship is bullcrap. And he's like, no, it's not. And she's like, yes, it is. And it's basically him trying to explain himself very poorly, but she's just winning the entire episode. And there's a point where she's like, I loved you when you were in skinny jeans and I think a certain type of boots and we're driving around a 97 Honda Civic. I loved you then and I love you now. But you got a little bit of money, a little bit of fame, a little bar, and this girl gave you a little bit of it, or this one girl who finds I can't remember what she said, but basically or is basically a fangirl essentially. And it's just like someone who gives you attention and worships the ground you walk on, and you just decide to have relations with her.
So, question, Tom and Raquel, are they like, what are they?
Well, apparently
The look, if you guys are just listening, the look on Gabe's face is the shadiest look I've ever seen. That was fantastic.
Well, we later see a scene between the two and they have absolutely zero chemistry. And apparently
Yikes.
they, on the day of the reunion, there is a article that's like, Tom and Rachel have broken up.
Who could have seen it coming?
But apparently Tom was on a flight and someone took a picture of him on his phone, and guess whose name was on the phone? Apparently after they were supposed to have broken up. Rachel's. And apparently before Andy Cohen did a one-on-one interview with Sandoval, Rachel, and Ariana, and Rachel had said, well, up until 5 days ago, Rachel sent a letter to the house. I didn't read it because that's illegal, but I think she sent him a love letter.
Ooh.
And so it's just like, oh, ooh.
So the next, have they like the next, has all this happened? Because they haven't filmed the next season yet, right?
Correct. They finished, or they filmed the reunion in late March, I believe. And apparently none of the cast has signed their contract because there's apparently supposed to be a big reveal at the end of the third reunion where apparently Rachel comes clean about something that only the showrunner knows.
Oh boy. And that's the most reality TV show thing I've ever heard.
Exactly. And also circling back to like, Raquel was in like a Tom hoodie and at BravoCon, and Tom dressed up as Raquel for Halloween. There's a moment later on where Sheena is talking to, or it's Sheena, Katie, and some of Ariana's friends talking with Ariana, and Katie talks about and Katie says, oh, I had like a feeling because at BravoCon, I can't remember when BravoCon was, but that was when Rachel showed up in the massive hoodie, and Katie's talking to Schwartz and she's like, oh, looks like you have a fangirl. And Schwartz is like, oh, she's not here for me. Trust me. So then it's like, wait, Schwartz knows. And so basically he reveals that he learned about the affair in late August when the affair had happened. I can't remember when, but it had happened like a few weeks beforehand and he was just like, oh no, they just had a one night stand and he didn't tell me things. And basically throughout the affair, when Tom Schwartz knew, he was like defending and covering for Sandoval the entire time. And like went along with this narrative that Sandoval came up with that, oh, he's going to pursue Raquel and stuff like that. And when Schwartz and Sandoval were having a scene together, Schwartz was like, I don't want to kick you while you're down. And Sandoval is crying and is like apologizing more to his business partner than he did to his own girlfriend.
Yikes.
And also Sandoval made a post about apologizing to his business partners before making a public apology to Ariana.
That's low.
And also in the scene, Schwartz is like, you need to make a social media post because people are saying terrible things about Schwartz and Sandy's, and I'm getting a lot of heat for this. And Schwartz is like, well, and Sandoval is just like, well, then stay off social media. And so and
it's everybody else's fault but mine.
Pretty much. And he's pretty much been trying to blame Ariana for anything, but Ariana's like, no. This is what you said. This is what I said. Because later on in the episode, there's a point where Sandoval basically tries to gain some semblance of sympathy by saying that, or like at the very end when he's talking to Sheena, she's basically yelling at him and saying like, you should have broken up, or you should have been an adult and broken up with her. And Sandoval goes, I tried to. She threatened to content warning. My apologies. Content warning. Trigger warning. Sandoval said that Ariana threatened self-harm if they were to break up, and was trying to say, oh, I tried to bring it up to her, but she would always shut me down.
So you decided that the way to fix it was to cheat on her.
Exactly.
Cool.
And Sheena makes that point because Sheena was she was really good friends with Sandoval because Sandoval helped her out like in the beginning of Vanderpump Rules, and I think I said earlier about the upfronts, and he would like include her and things, and so I guess he was trying to get some semblance of sympathy from her, but she's like, then you be an adult and have a conversation, and he's like, well, Ariana threatened self-harm, and she's like, you know what you do, Sandoval? You fly in Tanya, Ariana's mother, you bring in Jeremy, Ariana's brother, Tanya's her mother, Jeremy's her brother, and then you surround her with her friends, so we pick up the pieces that you freaking left. You don't go and screw her friend.
Yeah.
And then she ends it with, so we're clearly not friends, or do you have anything to say because we're clearly not friends anymore?
Oh, is she the one who was like, before I never speak to you again, or was that Ariana?
That was Ariana, where she said, if you are at the end of their first confrontation, she said, is there anything you want to say before I never speak to you again?
Honestly, iconic.
Exactly. And apparently after Sandoval's scene at Rachel's, which was super cringe, he apparently went back to his house, yelled at Ariana and her friends, went back to Rachel's, and then watched them on surveillance footage.
What?
And oh my gosh, the conversation between Tom and Rachel was so weird because, she has these galaxy lights, and at one point he's like, oh, can we turn off the light to help with the mood or something? And there's like these galaxy lights as he's like, oh, we had an affair, everyone's mad at us. And apparently Sandoval's family doesn't like Rachel, but Sandoval's family hasn't reached out to Ariana at all. And oh gosh, it's honestly hilarious because there's a point where Sandoval says they'll love you, talking about his family, and she's like, I love you too, and he's like, I said they, but I love you too.
Oh no.
And then
cringe.
And then there's the point where he's talking about he was talking about when he was trying to push Schwartz on, or having Schwartz and Rachel have their little thing, but he instead of saying Rachel, he says Ariana. He's like, Ariana's a cool chick, and Rachel's like, you just called me Ariana. And it was just, and basically watching, you're like, oh, they have no chemistry. She just gave him a little bit of attention, and he decided to like go for the carrot. And it's just like, that's not what you do. And Rachel was Ariana's best friend, and she's just like, oh, well. And when the producers asked Rachel why she did this, and she's like, I wanted to know what it was like to have relations with a friend, or with someone you truly loved, and I loved him as a friend. Even though she was engaged to James and had said yes, and it was just like, oh, but James also wasn't very nice to her. So I think that everyone was kind of on Rachel's side because James would kind of say things to her. And apparently and Rachel had brought up during the season that James had yelled at her parents, and I think called her dad fat or her mom fat, and was like, the only reason why she was with you is because this, that, and the other. And apparently he wasn't very nice. And so...
Yikes.
So, yeah. And I don't know why I'm laughing. Nervous laughter, I'm sorry. Nervous laughter. And so...
It's the wow. People make bad decisions.
Exactly. And Yeah, and part of the reason why this blew up is because Ariana is like the nicest person and everyone loves her, and Tom kind of had this facade of being really nice. So it's like, how can you betray her this way? And Tom had punched Jax in the face because Jax had relations with Kristen while she was dating Tom, and he was like, how could you not feel anything? And it's just like, well, how could you try to pin this on Ariana and say that she would self-harm, even though Ariana said that this part of her life, she said this chapter in her life would be closed, is essentially what she said, where she would say, you know what, if we broke up, I would move away and not do the show anymore. That's
Yeah.
what she said, because Ariana did a podcast where she was basically telling her side of the story, which makes a lot more sense and shows how much of a narcissist that Sandoval seems to be. Their words,
Yeah.
not mine. But
We don't diagnose here. We're just reporting the news.
I'm reporting what I've seen and giving my interpretation of
Yeah.
that. So a lot of people have been saying he's a narcissist and how he's been trying to blame everyone but himself. He's able to try to spin the story to make him look like more of the victim, and he's very much all about himself. And none of Ariana's feelings are valid, and it's all her fault. And there was a point where during the second part of the reunion, Tom is talking to Rachel, and he's like, "Oh, she would belittle me for my fashion choices, but then be like, oh, Tom, you're so good with fashion." And then the clip they show is him being like, should I wear this red look or this green look? And she's like, I'm not really feeling the green. So there's that. But basically,
So a very normal interaction.
exactly. I feel like this is the part where we like get to the reunion, or is there anything that I've been confusing about?
I think I'm caught up to date. I'm trying to think about if I have any questions. I think I have a multitude of questions, but none that can really be answered by humankind.
Yeah, but it's just like, yeah, so basically they had relations for a night after Ariana's dog passed away, and then around the time that Ariana's grandmother passed away, he basically decided to stay at a barbecue to be with Rachel. Oh, and another I believe the term is smoking gun, was Allie, James's new girlfriend, who Allie's cool. Allie's a cool cast member. I think I would enjoy watching her in another season just to see how she would go, because she's very much holding James accountable for his actions. And I'm sure a lot of people are trying to get gotcha moments where it's like, oh, but he drinks a lot and he does this. And she's like, I know, I've told him, and he's seeing a therapist.
Yeah.
And she's very down to earth. And she also had the smoking gun where she's like, oh, I remember seeing Tom and Rachel by themselves at the Abbey, which is a bar that's nearby where Pump is, or not Pump, where oh gosh, I forgot the name of the restaurant Sir is the restaurant. They all worked at Sir. I'm so sorry. People are probably yelling at me. They're like, fake fan. But Sir is the restaurant that the whole cast was starting to work, that everything started in. So apparently the Pump is another restaurant that got closed down, unfortunately, due to problems with the landlord. Or I think landlord, I can't remember. But Sir is apparently the Abbey is nearby Sir, and apparently Allie had seen Rachel and Tom dancing at the club or dancing at the bar or the Abbey at 1 a.m. And people are like, huh, that's interesting. But I think it was spun in that, oh, our coworkers were there too. We weren't there by ourselves. So it was just kind of like oh, okay. And Ariana was like, oh, okay, they weren't alone by themselves. That's fine. But Allie kind of had a very triumphant moment during the second half of the reunion, where she basically tells her side of the story, is like, this is what my relationship is like. There was another incident where where apparently James got thrown out of a club because he was like being belligerent, apparently. And Allie was like, well, no, he was just yelling that he wanted to leave. The security guy came in. James wasn't really that nice to the security guy, and they had to be taken away. And Allie was like, well, Rachel wasn't there to see that, so I don't know why she's directing this narrative. So it's also one of those things where Sandoval's like, oh, we can bring this up and be like, oh, point the finger at James kind of thing.
I'm definitely going to have to tell you the Try Guy situation at some point.
Oh, God. Or didn't he have a relationship with one of the crew members or something and was cheating on his wife.
Yeah, one of their employees.
Uh,
Yeah, there's a whole lot to it, though.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about that. Or in that story.
This podcast just slowly devolves into us just giving each other pop culture related tea. Just like, and then this happened. No. Okay, so reunion wise, I'm oh gosh, because there's a lot that happened between the first part and the second part, but I've only seen both of them one time, but I've seen the second part more recently. But basically the reunion part one was kind of talking about Scandoval a little bit and everyone kind of giving their input and Ariana just basically swatting down everything that Sandoval was saying. Lala and James are team Ariana. There was a point where James and a few others were literally booing Sandoval because Sandoval was trying to have like a crying moment. He's just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for what I did." And I think James or Ariana was like, "You're not even crying." And then like he stopped the crying real quick and it was like, "Boo, boo Sandoval." And so basically Lala was saying early on, because Lala and her ex basically was accused of some things of racism and assault. Oh.
And basically had a casting couch situation. And, you know, there was the whole drama where...
Wait, this was who?
Lala.
Okay, this was Lala that was accused of all this stuff?
Or no, her ex-husband.
Okay.
Or ex-baby daddy was accused of all this. And so Lala was trying to was trying to say that Sandoval was similar to Randall, her ex, and is just like, give it 10 years, he will be, because Lala's ex also cheated on her. And Lala was the mistress too. So... But unfortunately for Tom Sandoval, he hasn't been able to bring that up because what he did was so much worse. So Lala's kind of getting a free pass for some of her behavior.
I'm just thinking about, again, shout out to Emily D. Baker, who I love. She's like, so I'm so into Vanderpump Rules now that my teenager is also into the show. He watches it with me and goes, these people don't make very good choices. And I go, no, buddy. No, they don't. He's like, they sleep with all of each other's friends. That doesn't seem like it's going to work out. And she's like, yep, nope. Okay. Smart of you to pick up on that, buddy.
The lesson of all this is don't sleep with your friends when all your friends are dating each other or have relations with. But basically Lala was was saying how, Sandoval will be eminent in 10 years. This man is dangerous. And Lisa Vanderpump is like, well, he's not dangerous. And Lala is like, I wasn't asking for anyone's opinion. Well, and Lisa Vanderpump is like, well, you got mine. And Lala is like, that's great. I reject it. And so
I reject your opinion and
substitute my own. And people were getting mad at Lisa Vanderpump because she was defending Tom a little bit.
Yeah.
And someone pointed out how Lisa Vanderpump was defending other cast members when they were doing things wrong. So it's par for the course. But also Lisa Vanderpump was trying to protect her investments because Tom Schwartz and Tom Sandoval have a bar called Tom Tom, which Lisa Vanderpump has invested in. So people were like, Lisa, don't do that.
No, honey, don't do that.
Don't do that. And there were a few times where James gets really mad at Sandoval, is like, yo, with a mustache. And he has to leave several times. And is like, I'm back. I'm happy. I'm sorry, Andy. I'm sorry, Lisa Vanderpump. And it's really funny because the uncensored version, you just get to hear all the F-bombs all the time.
Love it. Wait, didn't Howie Mandel of all people catch strays in this whole situation?
Oh,
what happened there?
Howie Mandel. Howie Mandel interviewed Tom Sandoval a little bit after the news broke because Howie Mandel had no idea what was happening.
Oh no.
But Howie Mandel's daughter watched the show but wasn't pressing Tom on anything, so Tom got to say his side of the story. For those listening, I'm putting in giant air quotes, was telling his side of the story and how, it wasn't that great. We hadn't been good for this long. She was saying this about me. She was saying that about me, and was basically able to tell his narrative without any pushback on the situation. And so people are mad at Howie Mandel for not doing his research beforehand and seeing like Tom Sandoval is the problem. He's the one who caused all this. He was planting seeds. He was a master manipulator in this situation.
Yeah, what I heard was like Howie Mandel is people are like Howie Mandel's catching strays because he's not even part of this, but it's like people are like, but he's siding with the enemy, and other people are like, but he doesn't know. He's like a dad. He doesn't watch the show. It's like, yeah, but you're having him on the show. Read up on what's happening,
Exactly.
please.
Exactly.
Also, his producers did him so dirty that nobody was like, ah. So just lean in his ear like 2 seconds before you roll and go, everybody hates this guy.
Wait, what?
The harder you are on this guy, the more people like you. That's all you had to do. Any PR agent would be like, this is the easiest layup.
Well, I feel like his daughter should have said something, because apparently she is a fan of Vanderpump Rules, but I think was kind of starstruck and didn't go deeper into like, how did this happen? What happened?
Does
kind
she
of
do
thing.
the podcast with him?
Yep.
Okay.
She was there, and she watches the show, and I think she convinced Howie to do the interview because she was like, oh, I'm a fan of the show. It's fine. And it was not fine. So maybe she could have said something, and excuse me, they could have done like good cop, bad cop kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what Tom said, but Ariana was just like, yep, nope, he is lying. This is what I said. This is how things played out. They had relations for 8 months, and I was under the assumption that everything was good. And I think in part 2, Sheena was like, oh, I had a talk with Ariana off camera and she said they were good. And Lala's like, I talked to Sheena after the quote unquote incident where she quote unquote hit Raquel, which she did not. And Lala said, Sheena never mentioned anything about a punch to me. And it's just like, it's like, oh, it's like she probably would have confided. So it's just like all the blatant lying that was happening. I'm trying to remember other like big moments that happened, but and then the interesting part is where Katie's just like, oh, Schwartz, you're trying to be friends with everybody. I'm not gonna say it, but basically like, or him trying to be friends with everybody would be a detriment to him in the end. But if you want to hear what she said, go watch part 2 of the Vanderpump Rules reunion. But not sponsored, but yeah, basically it was just like, no, this didn't happen. No, that didn't happen.
Oh boy.
And then there's a part earlier, a few months ago, a paparazzi picture came out of Sandoval and Rachel talking to one another. It looked like they were off camera, and sources were saying how they were talking about how that people are calling them liars or something like that. And in part 2, Rachel is just like, or Sandoval is just like, oh, they're making us out to be liars and to make us out to be pathological liars. And Rachel is just like, well, aside from the affair, we've been pretty honest.
What?
Yeah. And even Rachel found discrepancies in what Sandoval was saying. She's like, how do I know you're not going to do this to me? Because you were with her for 9 years. And it's just like, shouldn't you have been asking this like after or like before the one night stand?
That's my thing with like, and like not trying to be like judgy on a high horse or anything, but genuine question, like, do you, like, people really feel like if somebody would cheat with you, they wouldn't also cheat on you? And I guess that's just like the thing is like, oh well, like we have something special, and it's like, I don't know your relationship, but also maybe it's just me. But if you're somebody who's willing to cheat on somebody, it's probably best to just let that one go.
Yeah.
Just to save yourself the future heartache, you know?
Yeah. And I think there was a point where Katie had made a connection about, I can't remember the exact situation, but Katie was calling out like similar patterns that were happening where it was kind of bouncing off of Lala's, like, when Lala was saying how the way that Sandoval was protecting Rachel was the way that he was talking about Rachel was the same way that Tom was talking about Ariana when he was with Kristen, kind of thing. Like some of the things he would say, like being protective over her, and people were like, but Lala, you weren't around when Tom was dating Kristen. But then Ariana was like, but wait a second, I was around during that time, and you were saying almost the exact same things. And they show clips where he was saying like, I feel like you don't want to be around me where, or it's like, I feel
Uh-oh.
like you feel awkward around me. And he said the exact same thing, or he said the exact same thing about Kristen and Ariana. He almost said verbatim, like, oh, I feel like you don't want to be around me anymore.
Was he cheating on the last girl with
Or,
Ariana? Or
or,
like, was it this literally the same pattern?
or
Or
he cheated on Kristen with Ariana because they
okay.
had made out at the pool at the Golden Nugget.
Ah,
And
got you.
and it's a really funny scene because Tossi's like, the Golden Nugget, and Tom's like, yeah, I love that place. But this whole point, or this whole recent thing, is very serious, and we can't laugh at that. But that
No,
part
no,
was funny.
no,
but
no, no, not laughing
but-
at that. Just
or,
laughing
yeah,
at
sorry.
the quote,
Yeah.
the Golden Nugget. Oh yeah, I love that place.
Yeah.
Just with no context, that's funny to me. Sorry.
Yeah,
Didn't mean to-
sorry about that. Yeah. And so basically he had a pattern of saying the exact same sort of manipulate. He had the exact same manipulation tactics where
Mhm.
it's just, I'm so innocent in this situation. You would belittle me. You would yell at me constantly. You would say we weren't in a good place. And Arna's like, we had been to therapy. We were in a good place, according to me. I was just talking to Sheena 2 months ago, or in January, and I thought we were in a good place, and you've been lying this whole time. And
Yo, do you know how expensive therapy is? Who has the money to go to therapy with somebody that they're gonna turn around and cheat on?
well, it's really great because Katie and Ariana are thriving after ditching the Toms because after Katie had been gaslit this whole time, she basically kind of has some sort of indication, even though Katie hasn't been too nice to a lot of people. And Sheena had to be like, Katie, I'm really sorry because Katie knew, or Katie was or Sheena was on Schwartz's side with the whole situation, even though Katie had told Sheena in confidence, like, I told him, like, don't have relations with anyone in the friend group. And Sheena was like, you should make out with Raquel, or you should date Raquel, kind of thing, or Rachel kind of thing. And so Sheena apologized to Katie for that. And also Katie and Ariana are starting a business, a sandwich shop called Something About Her, and they're hoping to, I think they're open, or they were planning to open in late May, so I think they might be open now. But the real their winning part was apparently they were gonna make merch for the store, and they were like, oh, we're gonna have that onto the side. But people were saying, how can we support you through all this? And they're like, buy our merch. And apparently they made $200,000
Wow.
in merch sales before their store was even open.
Oh shit, we need to get merch. I just we don't, at the time of recording this, we have not put any of these videos on the internet yet. But hopefully you will be seeing them soon. Maybe by the time between now and them seeing this episode, we'll have merch. There will be links below if that's true. There's also a possibility that I just had ADHD brain and completely forgot to do that.
And Spencer's listening back and is like, hey, did you ever do this? And it's just like, oh no. Oh, buy the Tyra Y shirts.
God, our suffering through model land.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to be another. We keep saying, "Oh, that's gonna be a podcast."
Yeah, we have to finish the this is a minor tangent, but we have to finish the Monoland Too Stupid to Hate video, the 3-hour-long video.
Yes, by I want to say Crimson Rogue. I hope I'm using their name correctly. I think that's their username. Let me check really quick, so Spencer can cut it out and pretend like I knew everything all along. Yeah, Crimson Rogue. Okay,
Crimson Rogue.
I'm
yeah.
correct.
Yes, yay, Avery. Because I did not remember his username at all. I apologize. Crimson Rogue, I apologize. And so we are going to talk about Model Land eventually, but merch, yes, buy the Tyra Y merch. And if you want to understand our pain, please watch the VODs of us reading Model Land on Avery's YouTube channel. Avery talks about stuff. It should be under the live tab.
Yes, you can. If you just go to the channel and search Model Land,
yes,
it should come up. It's like a 6-part live stream. It's like 6 VODs that we have.
That total over like 15 hours.
Oh, at least, yeah. It's a big book.
500 pages. That was supposed to be 1,000 pages.
And we were doing live commentary too, so we'll save all this for a future episode. But yeah. So, any final words on this?
So at the recording of this podcast, part 3 of the reunion hadn't even happened yet, and Rachel wasn't even a part of the reunion for the first two parts of the reunion, so she'll be in part 3. And there's this big moment where Rachel's like, James and Lala can't talk because they had relations, because when James and because apparently when James and Raquel were together in the beginning of the relationship, James had relations with Lala. So Rachel is not the best arguer. And I have to bring up the argument with producer Patrick, but basically Rachel is trying a very flimsy response to everyone else to try to defend herself even though she proceeded to have an affair with her best friend's man for 8 months.
The fact that it's her best friend, that's just the worst part, I think.
Yeah, there's a part during Rachel's birthday where she's like, I've aged out of pageant, so I'm trying to find my footing, and Ariana's like, we love you, Raquel, and Sandoval hugs Rachel and stuff like that, and it's just like,
I was gonna say, watching this back must be really awkward.
Yeah, especially for Sheena and Ariana, because they were basically like, we're defending Rachel. Rachel isn't really doing anything wrong. And then, but I don't think they saw the point where Rachel was antagonizing Katie, and Katie was looking like the bad guy a little bit, but everyone was like, wait a second, Rachel's the bad. And going back, Rachel rolled her eyes at Katie's mother, because Katie was like, did anything I say mean anything about, because Katie's mom really liked Schwartz and was really sad when he did what he did, where he basically did not follow Katie's one rule, and so that was sad. But Rachel like rolled around and was like, oh gosh, when Katie's mom started speaking, or Katie's mom's name is Terry, and so Katie goes off on Rachel, and I think that's what Sandoval wanted, to try to throw the binoculars off him and throw it onto Katie, and Katie calls Rachel the C word, and I'm like, I'm all for it, because after everything came out, I'm like, you know what, Katie should be able to call her that. And don't send hate to these individuals. Oh, and another thing is, Rachel's her PR team made a post talking about mental health, and they said that Rachel had gone to a mental health facility, but it turned out to be a spa in Arizona.
What?
She apparently went to a spa and tried to make it sound like she was going to a mental health facility, I believe is the story.
You've said 3 different things, and maybe it's just because I've been reading a lot of... No, it's nothing that you said that was wrong. It's just at least 3 different places I have had, and maybe it's just because I've been reading weekly Animorphs for 3 or 4 months now, but I just, the memes from the Animorph books, because they're like morphing into animals, so it's like someone says something crazy, and then it's just like them as a lizard, lizard. It's just like that, and a couple other things. I don't even know, but a couple of other times I've just been like, I'm turning into an Animorph cover meme in my head, because that's how what the fuck
exactly. Yeah, and so apparently Tom and Rachel had broken up, and apparently Tom was dating someone else who hadn't, or was seen like dating, or someone said they were dating him, but apparently Tom was caught in a photo calling Rachel, and also Ariana has been living her best life, because she's gonna be in a Lifetime movie.
Oh,
She got a brand deal with Bloomingdale's. She's a spokesperson for Bic Razor, because there's the point where James is like, yo, with a mustache, and on Howie Mandel's podcast he shaves his mustache. and apparently Ariana is gonna be on Dancing with the Star, the next season of Dancing with the Stars.
Yo.
And so Ariana, or after the devastation of everything that's happened and learning everything that's happened, it's good to see that Ariana has a good support system, because during the finale, Ariana was surrounded by people, which is good, because and this should be a cautionary tale. It's like, hey, don't cheat.
Please
because
don't.
There are consequences, and we're building up the person who had this devastating news, and she's living her best life and doing great, while Or I remember seeing the meme where it's the end of Legally Blonde, where it's like Warner, but instead of Sandoval, it's like Sandoval graduate without honors, with no job offers and no girlfriend.
Well, it's like one of those things where it's like, if you want my opinion, which I don't know why anybody particularly would, I'm not classified in this field, but like, I'm never gonna fault anybody for being like, hey, I want to out of this relationship. That's like a long-term relationship, even if it's like stressful and, people's feelings get hurt. Like, if it's the right thing to do, if it's not working, that's fine. But like, why cheat on them? That's the thing that that's the step in my brain that I don't get. It's like, if you want to be with them, cool. If you don't, cool. Why is there an in-between? Pick a lane.
Yeah, and Tom tried to make so many excuses, and Sheena was grilling him. She's like, why'd you buy a house together? And he's like, that was a Band-Aid to help with it. And she's like, how long has it been bad for? And he's like, 4 to 5 years.
What the 4 to 5 years?
And
what?
And
that's longer than some people's entire relationships.
Yes, and he's just like, oh, do
they have kids together?
No, but she wanted to freeze her embryos, and near the end of season 10, she's like, hey, you need to stop drinking, so because apparently the heads of his sperm were misshaped, so the doctor was like, just don't drink for a little bit and you'll have those ready to go. And so Ariana wanted to freeze her embryo so she could eventually have a kid with him, but luckily I think she still froze her eggs, but she didn't freeze embryos, so luckily
she could have kids with somebody else.
Exactly.
That's good.
And apparently she was seen at Coachella with another guy, and everyone's like, oh, he's way handsomer than Tom Sandoval, kind of thing. And so
Tom kind of deserves that at this point,
It's just like, how dare you?
Like, we don't really comment on people's looks, but also it's not really about his looks. It's about the I'm glad she's living her best life with a cute guy at Coachella after everything that happened.
Exactly. And so she doesn't have kids with him. He was trying to say it's her fault. He didn't end it. She thought it was good. He put up this facade, and I think he was telling, I'm trying to remember, but I think he was trying to tell other people it hadn't been, he was on the show, he was like, it hadn't been good for a while. And and there's also the moment that I mentioned earlier where the yelling at producer Patrick, and it's really random because there was a show a couple years ago called Fire Island where it's like these 6 friends and are interacting with each other while they go to Fire Island for the weekend. It's like Summer House, but on Fire Island. And one of the individuals who was on that show, his name is Patrick, and he ended up becoming a producer on reality TV, and he was one of the producers on Vanderpump Rules. So I was like, oh, crazy connection.
And that's the guy that got yelled at?
Yes, because after Sandoval had talked to Rachel about how everything had been going at the reunion and how he was being dog walked, essentially. He basically wanted, and this was brought up earlier where Ariana is like, oh, you want to have time with her so you can, or yesterday you were coaching her because you're really good at coaching because you coached me. And so basically he wanted some off camera time so he could probably coach Rachel. And he was yelling at the producer because it was during lunch, and he was like, hey, can we not film anymore? And the producer's like, well, yeah, you can go to lunch. And he's like, no, I don't want the cameras. And he's like, well, you can go and have lunch off camera. And he's like, but I want to talk to Rachel off camera. And he's like, but we have to film you. And Tom was just like yelling at this guy, and he was just like, but you need to be on camera if it's the 2 of you. Or I don't know if it was just edited, but I was basically seeing it as Tom winning that argument essentially and yelling at this producer, and people were like, oh, producer Patrick is doing so good. And I'm just like, but he was getting yelled at the whole time. And I think Tom had threatened to like walk out. But it's just like, you signed a contract. You have to be on camera at all times. You're on reality television. You don't tell me what to do. We tell you what to do. You're going to have lunch. You are not allowed to talk to her off camera. Again, but I'm saying this, but if I were in this situation, I would probably be like, what? But you can't. But I'm just like, I'm sure there's someone out there who's like, no, you tell him this, or it's like, you either do this or this is happening. There will be consequences. You will basically lose all credibility. You will not be able to dig yourself out of any holes. But apparently, based on this is alleged from what I understand, there are paparazzi photos of those two of Rachel and Tom having a conversation off camera. So he might have been able to coach her. But I mean, when you have like 4 cast members who are not on your side and are like ready to go.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Oh, and also there's another thing that Sandoval said during the reunion that was really bad, because Lala, she's having a rough time fighting a custody battle with her ex for her daughter, because Lala has a daughter, and so she's having some difficulty with the custody battle, and her daughter was not allowed to be featured on the season at all because of Lala's ex. And there's a point during the reunion where Lala is yelling at Sandoval and calling him a moron, and apparently Sandoval under his breath is like, you ripped out your IUD when you heard Stassi got pregnant, and people are all like, oh, this mother lover. And I'm trying to my interpretation, because I know it's really bad, and my interpretation is that, oh, he's like, oh, you're calling me a moron, the only reason you got pregnant is because you heard one of your friends got pregnant, type of thing. And Lala was just like, how dare you bring up my daughter in this? It's like it's like, you can talk about me all you want, but do not.
Yeah, don't talk about people's kids. That's where the line is, I think, for me personally.
Yeah, and so Sandoval said that, and Sandoval dug himself into a deeper hole.
He's really good at that.
Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna see like his Scandoval, professional hole digger.
Exactly. Oh, and then there was a point during the reunion where he was trying to put the spotlight on James for a little bit, because apparently Schwartz, Sandoval, and James were at an event. And Sandoval was like, James got really drunk and got belligerent and like took his shirt off at one point, and James is like, well, Schwartz drank a lot too. And Sandoval was saying, oh, you like smacked one of the waitresses on the butt, and she had to like sign something that said she wouldn't like say anything about it.
No.
And I can't remember James' rebuttal for this, but he's just like, and Sandoval was trying to say, you haven't really been nice to people either. And James is like, well, what about what you did? And Sandoval is just like, well, you're yelling at me, blah, blah, blah. And Ariana's like, it's extenuating circumstances. We're gonna kind of look away at what James has been doing and look about what you've been doing, Sandoval. And you're saying these things that are being disproven.
James. It's like with children. We're not talking about James. We're talking about you.
Exactly. And one of the previews for the part 3 of the reunion is Tom is like, I'm sorry that you hate me, or no, it's like, I'm sorry for what I did to you, and it's like, I deserve the hate and you hating me, blah blah blah. And Aaron is like, I can't imagine 2 worse people. I can't. How could you do this? Trying to make me look like
that's not
guy.
it's funny laughing. It's just
nervous, like, oh, cringe. What are you supposed to do in this situation? And I'm really interested to see how the reunion will conclude, and what this gigantic bombshell that Raquel will drop, and maybe we'll have an update, but yeah, basically Sandoval is not a good person, and Ariana deserves way better, and you should have a Lala and a James in your corner.
Yay. Well, thank you for telling me all of that.
No problem.
I knew like the basics of it, but all of the nitty gritty stuff I didn't know. I just knew like there was a cast of people, and somebody cheated on somebody else with somebody's friend. That's all I knew.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, I think I said this before about the restraining order, where basically Rachel didn't show up to the court date that Sheena had set up, and apparently I think Rachel might have said like, oh, she didn't actually hit me. And people are like, wait, Rachel filed a false police report.
I did hear whispers of that, because like, again, was watching Emily D. Baker cover it, and people were like, but what if this is false? And she's like, at this point, because it had just been filed, she's like, all we know is that this has been filed. If it were to come out, sorry Spencer, if it were to come out that it was false, that is absolutely something that they could go after her for, because it's very illegal to file a false restraining order and all that stuff. But at that time, we didn't know all the other stuff. And then, like, as more stuff kept coming out, she was like, Getting real interested about that restraining order.
Oh, and didn't you mention how there was like a box where you could check off like this person isn't allowed to contact you, and she didn't check off those boxes?
I can't remember which box it was, but you know, you have like a bunch of boxes like I don't want this person to contact me, to be within 100 feet of me, to blah 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 blah. There's like a whole thing. And most people just check like all the ones that are just like I want them to not be able to contact me. I think there was I think it was the one where it was like she did not check. She checked that I want her to stay away from me, but not that I don't want her to be able to contact me. I think it was that. I'll have to go back and watch the VOD of Emily's stream, but it was something like that. And Emily was like, in all my years of working as a district attorney in California, I never saw somebody check one box without checking the other one. So that's very strange to me.
Yeah, so it's just like, did she lie? And there also a theory that Raquel is pregnant, but I think that was disproven. So people are like, wait, what's the bombshell? And people were saying that, Lisa Vanderpump knew, and she's like, I knew like seconds before you all did. And so it's just like, what is this big bombshell that Rachel has for everybody, and what more are, and people are saying it's the timeline of events. So it's, as I said earlier, so it's just like, when did this happen? I thought it all started at guys' night, and then apparently they stopped, but apparently they started up again, and it lasted for 7 to 8 months, and then Ariana found out, and yeah.
I wonder what it could be that could possibly save like the reputation with the internet at this point, you know?
Or I know Ariana is just like she's just like, I hope Rachel doesn't come back. It's like, or it's just like, this is a group of friends. They're not part of the friend group, so I don't know what they're gonna do. Maybe the bombshell is that both Tom and Rachel are both coming back next season, but I don't know for sure. But Ariana is winning. She's just like, oh, this tactic, boom, disproven. Oh, this tactic, boom, disproven.
Yeah.
And she has all the brand deals, and
good for her.
So it's just like, oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of anything else in the situation. I know I talked about how Sheena was crying and Rachel was just like, oh, I should have written her a handwritten note, huh? And Rachel just showed no emotion throughout because she was watching the reunion as it was happening, and she doesn't seem to have any remorse for anything she's done. She was kind of like he when talking about, oh, I wanted to know what it was like to have relations with someone you loved. Cringe. And I'm trying to remember, there was something else that is on like the tip of my brain that I'm just like, oh, there's some other way she reacted where it's just like, oh, but it was just, yeah. And
you said the tip of your brain, and I picture your brain as like one of those iceberg memes where it's like all Scandoval, but
exactly. Yeah, I talked
like there's one up there. What did I miss?
I talked about the hypocrisy of Schwartz, where he only defended Katie once throughout the relationship, or at least what we saw on the show, but he was defending Sandoval after. Oh, there was also a scene where Schwartz was trying to apologize to Ariana, and he apparently sent her a text that's like, and he's like, I'm not gonna kick him while he's down, and she's like, he's not down, kick him.
He's not down, kick him.
And she's like in her revenge dress 1.0, where it's this beautiful gold dress that comes above her knees, and it has long sleeves, and she's just like, and he's like, you know what, he effed over your little family that you had, and what was he gonna do? He was gonna cheat on me with someone else. And Schwartz was just like, because Schwartz was just like, I'm so innocent in all this, like, I was stuck in a rock and a hard place. And speaking of stuck in a rock and a hard place, there was he basically had to choose sides between Sheena and Rachel, and he kind of doubled down on the I'm on Rachel's side, because he's like, no, Sheena said she punched her, and Ariana's like, she did not say that, she said she pushed her, and make it make sense. And oh, and it was really funny because there was a point where Sheena apparently had a conversation with Katie or something, and she was like, oh, you can, or it's just like, oh, I want to see you happy, and like, you can do better. And Schwartz is like, do better than this? And Sheena's like, without hesitation, yeah. Yes, Katie will do better than you, Schwartz. Because near the end, she was she was kind of seeing a gentleman by the name of Satchel, who on Watcher Carbons has been described as uh Weird Al Chalamet, because he looks like a mix between Weird Al Yankovic and Timothy Chalamet, so they call him like Weird Al Chalamet
Very
or something like
funny.
that. And it was nice seeing Katie happy, and Katie's like, no, we're not together anymore, but I'm just dating around kind of thing. And
Aw.
I'm just like, I'm really happy. Because both Katie and Ariana deserve to be happy. And
Yes.
I want them to find men who adore them and won't treat them like crap the way the Toms have. And just I love the camera cutting over to both the Toms when Katie and Ariana are like, we've sold $200,000 worth of merch already, and our restaurant isn't even open. And they're just like,
Nice.
why? How could we do this?
Like,
But-
oh look, wait, I have this. I forgot I had this in this old bag. Yeah.
Take your ring on a string and suck it.
Ring on a string. Yikes.
Yes, and I just wish I could remember more bombshells, because there's just so much more that happened.
I mean, we've been recording for almost 2 hours.
Oh my
so
gosh, and
you've remembered quite a bit off the top of your head.
I'm sure Ben and Ronnie will, because Ben and Ronnie listen to will listen to our podcast because I mentioned them, but they're just like, they're probably gonna be like, no, you fool, you forgot this important bit of information.
I mean, guys, he did it without any notes. Same as
yeah.
last week.
Yeah, by America's Next Top Model and Scandoval, it seems. I know a lot of information, but
We maybe only, I like how we're only 6 episodes in, but you and I kind of have our own specialties, because I'm like, hey, there's this weird thing that happened on this movie set like a lot of years ago. And Gabe's like, so you know that reality show that everybody watches that Avery's never seen because Avery's not very cool? That's the two flavors of the show. And I like it. I think we make a good team.
yeah, and you are very cool, Avery.
Thank you.
despite what I've said behind your back. No, I'm just kidding. I've told. Oh, and my mom says hi.
Aww.
My mom loves
Hi,
Avery's.
Mom.
My mom loves Avery's family because they kidnap me. They don't actually kidnap me. Please don't call the police. And so please don't file a temporary restraining order.
Hi, Mrs. Custig.
I love the Vandenhoutens.
Yeah.
No, I said it wrong. I'm sorry.
No, it's I say Vandenhouten.
Okay, I got it right.
You
yes.
can say it Vandenhouten or Vandenhouten. There's dissent in the ranks.
Yeah, apparently there are some of my family who went to South America, and they're the Coustages, and I'm like, and I get Custig. I could have been Coustage.
Coustage sounds so fancy.
Well, at least it's not Sandoval.
I always say the main 2 ways that people misspell our name is they just put a space, so they go VAN capital DEN, like with a space in between, which I'm fine with because it makes us sound even more like vampires than the name Vandenhouten already does. But also, yeah, so that's the one way. But then people also like to say like VANDER, like in most, like growing up when phone books were still like in use. Almost every single time our name was misspelled somehow, and usually it was with an R where the first N should be. But I don't fault anybody because it's a 12-letter Belgian last name. No one can spell it.
Oh gosh, my first thought is, is Drag Race Belgium? And there was a contestant from Drag Race España who I believe, or her grandmother moved to, or I think she's also from Belgium. I think she was born in Belgium. Anyway, sorry. Sandoval. Yes, we're happy our last name is not Sandoval, and Ariana deserves better. Katie deserves better. Apparently Jax might be coming back to the show because he was fired for some problematic behavior, but he and his wife Brittany reacted to a few of the episodes, and they're like, we like Schwartz, but Sandoval is a sociopath kind of thing, and it was interesting because a couple years ago, Jax was like, Tom and Ariana are like, our relationship is so perfect, but it's a facade. And it's like, wait, Jax was right? Because
oh my God.
And people are like, oh, Jax, but Jax eventually tells the truth. But I don't know. But yeah, he was like, it's all a facade, and he was right the whole time. And apparently it was a facade because Tom was like, And apparently Tom and Sheena was like, so Tom, has this happened before? And he's like, there was one other person, and they're in the Bravo universe, but they weren't on Vanderpump Rules. And people thought it was another Oh, and everyone thought it was Billy Lee, who is also on the show, but apparently not, because Billy Lee was seen spotted leaving Sandoval's house while Ariana was away, I think. But I
Yikes.
don't know if Ariana's friendship with Billy Lee is good or not, because I think that it wasn't good and now it is, or it was okay, but now it's not. But apparently there was someone else who Tom had relations with. And, there was Miami Girl mentioned, and I think that Ariana said, "Oh, we weren't exclusive at that point, so I just kind of let it go." But apparently he did sleep with Miami Girl, even though he said he did not. So it's just like
Fantastic.
So it's just like
he's had like 2 chances to have a Scandoval, realize before everybody found out about it that it was wrong, and yet here we still are.
Yep. And you have an affair for 7 to 8 months, and look what happened.
Yikes.
And yeah, and there was a point where Rachel was talking in her interview, and Andy Cohen, the like executive producer of Everything Bravo, was just like, oh, because she was saying, or she was talking about how, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she was basically like, oh, Tom said that he was gonna tell Ariana before the reunion, because that was the thing. He's like, oh, I was gonna tell her before the reunion so we can handle this off camera, because I didn't want to do that to her. Which everyone is just like, that's probably a lie. He was never going to tell her.
Yeah, no, it's just probably Rachel, just because... it's one thing when you're, like, in a relationship with somebody, and you have plausible deniability, at least, of, like, I didn't know. I swear he told me that he was divorced. When it's your best friend, and you're seeing them go to therapy, and she's, like, probably talking about how, like, it's gonna work...
Oh, there's also another scene that is so bad in retrospect that happened in the finale, where Rachel pulls Ariana aside and is just like, so things are going bad, right? And Ariana's like, no, it's actually really good right now, but you should feel attracted to your partner, right? And Ariana's like, oh my gosh, I find him so attractive. And Rachel is just like,
cringe. This is cringe.
And she's basically like, oh, this relationship is bad. I get the green light, right? And Ariana was like, no, everything is perfect. I see. It's a green light for me. And Rachel's like, it's a green light for me too. But oh well.
Uh-oh.
And there are just so many things in retrospect. And it's really interesting because when Allie was talking about how she saw them dancing at the Abbey at 1 a.m, Sandoval didn't like dispute that fact, but then Katie brought it up, and she's like, you're very protected, or it's like, you really like being around Raquel, like at the Abbey at 1 o'clock in the morning. And Sandoval is just like, dude, what are you talking about? You're crazy.
Or like, is that the Sandoval voice?
That's the Ben and Ronnie version of Sandoval, where he's like, dude, I can't believe you would do that. Dude. They do it a lot better than I do. I try to imitate them, but I fail.
I hope everybody knows I'm never going to be able to say this man's name correctly, because I found out about him from something called Scandoval, which sounds very close to his name, but it's not.
You take out the C, but it's just so hard.
Yeah, he's always going to have the C might be silent, but it's in there.
Yeah. And there's an O after the D.
Oh.
It's not an I.
Oh, Sorry. Oh, sorry. Never mind. You know what? I actually don't. After everything,
you just take
the least of his worries is that I spelled his name wrong.
He's probably, dude, Avery spelled my name wrong. Dude.
He's never gonna see this. He doesn't care. He doesn't know who we are.
Yeah. Oh, and apparently Rachel's family has been getting threats a lot from people.
Not good.
So it's like,
no one send threats to anybody.
Don't send threats. You can have your opinion online and be like, this is not cool, but please don't send threats to anyone involved or any of their family members. We do not support hate here. We support people getting comeuppance for what they did wrong, but not
But
hate.
the thing about karma is it happens all on its own.
Exactly.
You don't need Twitter to get karma. Karma just happens.
Exactly. And, Ariana living her best. And people were saying how Ariana is living the life that Sandoval always wanted, because there was also an argument between Tom and Ariana where Ariana was making a cocktail book and Tom's like, dude, that's our drinks are mine thing. I'm the bartender. I was here first. And he basically bullied her into including him like on the cover of her book and including him. And she's like, okay, fine. It's just, I don't like the way you're acting.
Cringe.
Oh, and there are also times where he's like, you call me an idiot and a moron. And she's like, I never called you a moron until today because you have been a moron today. But she kind of relented and was like, sure, fine. Everything's fine. Just
Great.
don't treat me like, or it's like, don't yell at me. This is my book.
But yeah.
Dude.
Dude.
Dude. But yeah, just all the hypocrisy with Sandoval and all the hypocrisy with Schwartz, and it's Schwartz trying to be like, oh, you need to make a post because all this heat is coming on me now, even though I kind of protected you and defended you, and now I'm trying to be all buddy with Ariana, and she's like, you know what, we're not friends. And all the lying, the craziness.
That's the other thing that sorry, real quick.
Oh, sorry.
That's the other thing that I find weird about people trying to insert themselves in this and it getting too far where people are like sending threats and all this stuff is because like the fact that Ariana was like, okay, this happened, I'm going to call TMZ and then I'm going to call the producers. She can take care. She's got it. She's got that on lock, guys.
Yeah, she has friends to help support her through all this. She has a very nice support system. Oh gosh, and then there was a point during the season where one day I'm going back in time, but Rachel was late for work one day and she's like, oh, I got intoxicated at Tom Sandoval's house while Ariana was away, and he was like, oh, she dipped out because it was Sandoval, Rachel and Schwartz in the hot tub together, and Sandoval was saying how Rachel dipped out and I guess was trying to imply that Rachel left, but it's like, no, she went into the guest room to go to sleep, but apparently she wasn't in the guest room, she was on the couch, but then she wasn't on the couch, and so there was a lot of the term dipping out being used to the point where on one of Ariana's kind of sponsored post, she was just like about to dip out, and people were like, oh, she's moving out of the home that she shares with Sandoval, and she's like, I need to dip out, my finances, SoFi sponsored this post kind of thing. So it's like, oh, okay, so she hasn't left yet, and it's like, no, she hasn't left yet. And also what Sandoval did was he also put up his house as collateral, I think it was, for his restaurant, and Ariana's name is in the house as well, so if something goes wrong with the restaurant, then it's on Ariana's.
Great.
But hopefully she can find a way to get her name off the lease so that it could be all Sandoval's problem if something goes bad, because there was a whole drama with the restaurant, but apparently it's finally opened, and allegedly, like, it was sitting empty the entire time filming wasn't happening. And basically, Tom Schwartz and Tom Sandoval were not the best businessmen.
I'm sure their business is going great now that everybody hates them.
Yeah, bad Yelp, but it might be like this is the place owned by Sandoval.
I'm gonna be here in case they have a fight in the restaurant, like dinner at a show.
Exactly. Side note, I'm sure a lot of people probably clicked off when I, like, halfway through was like, Sir was the restaurant they all worked at, where like it was interesting because, like, Sir is like the central point for the first few seasons, but then everyone decided to quote unquote adult, so they kind of left working at Sir, so only like one or two of them still work at Sir, and it's just like, oh, the place where it all started has left, and now they've grown their wings and are flying away.
Like soap operas, by the time they're over or just in the middle of their run, all the characters from the original are gone, and the original plot line means nothing anymore.
Oh, that's pretty much what. Apparently, there were with some of the seasons where apparently, like, a lizard passing away was a storyline, and it was just like, oh, that's sad that your lizard passed away, but oh gosh. And people were saying how Vanderpump Rules was on its last legs in season 10, but then Scandoval kind of like amped it up, and people were like, well, if Tom Sandoval didn't do this, then this wouldn't be happening. And it's like, well, this is happening at Ariana's expense, and it's going to be interesting to see the dynamics later, but it shouldn't take someone like having their world crashing around them for all this entertainment value, because I feel like there should be like a master class on the season finale and the reunion of Vanderpump Rules, because it is just the most I think enthralling is the right word, enthralling like media that I've seen in a long time, because it's just seeing like all the character interactions and all the storylines and all culminating into this moment, and the interactions everyone's having and the revelations that everyone is having. And it's interesting to see where someone's trying to spin the narrative, and the other person's like, no, this is not what you told me. What you told me was this, because I remember this and this and that and the other. And it's just seeing the clash of the Titans and everything, and how the one side is losing very, very much. And it's like, yes, all the interesting thing that's happening. It's just, and it's still not even done yet. So it's just like, we'll see what happens.
Wow. So
so that was a brief summary of Vanderpump Rules and most of Scandoval that I remember.
I know you're not even joking. That was brief, because I know there's more. I know that people in the comments under this are going to be like, "Oh, but what about the part where this and the scene where this?"
Oh,
and we encourage you to leave those comments.
Oh, side note, Kristen's cameo in the season 15 finale, because when Tom had broken up with Kristen and was with Ariana, Kristen was like, "Oh, okay, have fun, Aria. Have fun not knowing where Sandoval is at 2 a.m. Have fun not knowing if he's telling you the truth or not. And when he inevitably cheats on you, I'll come in with like a green dress or something." But apparently Ariana and Kristen became really good friends, and Kristen, or Ariana, was comfortable with inviting Kristen to like make a cameo, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we're really good friends." And apparently Kristen does not have nice things to say about Vanderpump or Lisa Vanderpump and some of the other stuff along with the show, but Ariana and Kristen seem to have this like genuine moment of like bonding over they're like our ex-boyfriend kind of thing, and they have this nice moment where it's just like we have these affirmations and we're burning the paper. It's like, here we burn what we want to leave behind, and here you want to have our affirmations for the future and stuff like that. And it's like ashes to ashes, dust to dust, something, and slay we must. And so it was a nice moment, and
nice.
And it's like, oh yay, Ariana and Kristen are friends. So that's a nice full circle moment from them like really disliking each other to bonding over this not so great experience. So
good for them.
I can't believe I almost forgot bringing up Kristen in the like one of the bigger moments.
I mean, you have been talking for over 2 hours, so I would not blame you if it's like, but you forgot this one little detail.
So as far as I know, that's everything. And please make sure to comment if I left anything out, so we can speak on that later.
Yeah. But thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for knowing all of this, because without you, this episode and last week's episode and next week's episode probably would never happen.
The question is, next week, are we doing Cycle 4 of America's Next Top Model or Naked and Afraid? Tune in to see, download the episode, and like, comment, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating on whichever platform that you are using.
Yes. Thank you for listening wherever you find your podcast. Remember that you can subscribe to both of us on YouTube. Avery Talks About Stuff and Gabriel Custic, respectively. But yeah, oh shoot, we need to find something in 2022 to go do.
Oh,
it was just last year.
Oh gosh, oh gosh. What's a fun thing in 2022?
At least it wasn't like 2020. Hey, what can we go and do in 2020?
Oh yeah, that was a bit of a rough spot, because I think it was after season 8. It kind of seemed like a series finale, and then like the panorama hit, but Vanderpump came back.
Pop culture moments of 2022. Twitter almost collapsed.
Oh no.
We can remember before. Oh, let's go back to Elmo beefing with Rocco. What a simpler time.
Wait, what?
You never saw Elmo beefing with Rocco?
No.
Okay, I'll have to show you this. Spencer can put in the clip. God, I could probably do a whole podcast episode about the Elmo beefing with Rocco.
Oh no.
Spencer, you don't have to keep this in.
Oh, Rocco says he doesn't want to say the alphabet.
He doesn't?
No, You can't have that cookie, Elmo. Rocco wants to eat it. How? How is Rocco gonna eat that cookie, Zoe? Tell Elmo. Rocco doesn't even have a mouth. Rocco's just a rock. Rocco's not alive.
I was gonna say we can talk about everyone addicted to Wordle because I was like 1 or 2 down, but
We can do both. We can play Wordle.
we're playing Wordle. I always put shame in as the 6-letter words.
Come on, I figured it out. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button. Hang on.
Take us away, TARDIS.
There we go. You gotta kind of.
Over the shoulder. It's like throwing salt over your shoulder for good luck. That could be the intro noise.
And everybody immediately clicks off.